is Dr. Janos Agoston. I hope I said that right. Coming to us from Hungary. He's a researcher and he's going to talk about lily diseases, and I don't have any other papers in front of me, so he can give the rest of them.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. And I would like to thank the organizers who thought of me as a worthy presenter for today and flew me over. And yep, I'm a scientist. That's what I tell people, and that's what I tell myself, and people tend to believe it. So today I'm going to talk about lilies, not the nice lilies, what we saw in the show, but lily pests and lily diseases. And because I work with viruses, I'm really partial to viruses. So I chose this beautiful lily virus. It is most likely lily model virus, and it's a culture OT hybrid palazzo. So these are the healthy plants, and this is the infected one. And I think we can clearly see the symptoms. And we're going to spend a little time with viruses, because why not? I'm presenting, so you have to listen. So my email address is over there. You can take a picture or write it down. I would like to answer emails, and questions are welcome, but we have a time schedule, and I don't want the other presenter to wait too long. And please allow me 2 weeks to answer your emails, because sometimes we are on a rush and I cannot answer emails daily. And if you happen to be in Europe, you are welcome to visit my garden. I know it's a long journey, 13 hours by plane, but if you are not willing to travel that much, you can use the QR code, because I have a YouTube channel and you can see my videos up there. And if you are coming, please give me a 3 weeks notice so I can prepare and make myself available, because I have a normal job, I have a side job and lilies, and of course the YouTube channel. So you're welcome anytime, preferably daytime. And so I would like to introduce where I live, because it's mostly not obvious. So this is Europe, and this is Hungary, and this is Romania, Ukraine, Slovakia, Austria, Slovenia, and Croatia, and this is Serbia. And I don't speak any of those languages. I can speak a little German if I have to, but I prefer not to. It's my preference, so. And I live here. I travel to the capital to work, and these are where my lilies are, at my parents' house, because I had a couple of times when people were cutting down my stems and breaking in and digging bulbs. So yeah, humans can be a pest too. So I would like to talk about the IPM of lilies and what I knew from the Dutch and what I heard from a professional grower. So the Dutch growers spray lilies every 5 to 7 days throughout the growing season. It's almost as much as apples, and when they have a high pest incidence, they are going to shorten these to 2 to 4 days. And I don't want to spray that much, because first of all, I'm lazy. Second of all, I don't think it's very good for myself and for the environment. And most people decided not to spray at all because they have children, they are health conscious, or they have pets, and whatever reason they have, it's fine. I don't want to spray at all because it costs a lot of money. So it's not rare that a lily field is sprayed 30 to 30 times a year in the Netherlands. And yes, they have issues with environmental agencies and groups. So you should expect that lily prices go up, because now they are bringing growers to courts to ban them altogether to use any pesticides or fertilizer on their fields. So brace yourselves. High lily prices are coming. And this is neither sustainable nor good for the environment, so what should we do? Well, we need to have a better way to grow lilies, and I think that the most important thing is to raise resistant or tolerant cultivars. That means 3 to 4 generations of very strict crossing and selection. So this will take time, like 15 to 20 years. If you grow martagons, it takes a much longer time. Fortunately, martagons are very resistant or tolerant to viruses and diseases, so that's a pro for them. And you can use repelling insects, and what the Dutch use, they spray oils every 3 days. So insects doesn't like to walk on sticky, oily surfaces, slippery. They slip with 3 legs and they fall. And this is very good against aphids, small ones like aphids and thrips. But it's not really good against like caterpillars or bigger ones. And biologicals, for example, hyperparasitic or mycorrhizal fungi or bacteria, and we are already testing it, and I'm very happy to announce you that I was able to secure a grant for the Research and Trust Fund for researching these. So these are actually animals, fungi or bacteria which are present in our soils, and they can be sprayed out or put in the soil, and they grow faster than the bad ones, so they force them out or they eat them. So that's nice. I like eating. And what is most important is that the Dutch are doing the one-way growing, so they have these nuclear stocks, what they call, nothing to do with any nuclear things. They just call it that way because it's fancy. So these are virus index plants kept in the laboratory, sterile, clean of every known pathogen and pest, and they propagate from these, and they release these small bulbs, and they grow the small bulbs 1 year in a greenhouse under very strict plant protection, and then they do 2 years growing outside, and then they sell it. And they start to implement this, and if they have a very good cultivar, they may be able to get permission to plant scales back. This is now they're working on this very hard. We can grow them in vertical farms, but if you have a good OT hybrid or a trumpet, it grows like 6 feet tall. So that's not really an option, but the Dutch do that for the tissue culture plants, and because they are like maximum 5 or 8 inches tall, you can stack a lot of plants onto each other, and they use these vertical farms with artificial lighting to grow them. And what to do with the problems arising because of climate change? Well, we have to do more research. We don't have a crystal ball. I don't have a crystal ball at home to predict what's going to happen, so we have to see and work on it. And I list a lot of chemicals, but because it's the United States and Canada, they are registered a little bit different than in Europe. So the EPA is registering the active ingredient, which means that any of the 50 states can decide that, okay, we can register this as a chemical product. I asked a lot of friends of mine who work in chemical industry, chemical companies, and unfortunately they couldn't find in their database which chemical is allowed to use professionally or at home. So you have to check your own state's regulations. What I suggest to all of you, and because it's taped, I'm going to suggest only the nice things. I can tell you later the rest. So you should have friends at high places like growers who can help you to be within the boundaries of the law. So they can help you to tell you if it's authorized or not. And of course, the people who are selling them. Okay. So biology of important pests. and diseases. So there are a lot of viruses in lilies. They are usually not present, all the viruses at the same time in your garden, but there are a couple of ones which are important. And it's very hard to identify a virus only by symptoms, because symptoms can come and go, and they change during the season. But the most obvious is the color breaking of the flowers. So, and if your lily is not growing anymore, so it's finished flowering, it can be infected with the virus, but you don't see the symptoms only next year. So when you're just surprised that your lily starts to grow in the spring and it looks really weird and bad, it was infected last year. It's because these plants have a growing season when they emerge from the soil, and after they stop growing the leaves out, they grow the buds, the flower buds. And sometimes you can see that the leaves are perfectly okay and the flowers look hideous. It's because they're not growing anymore, because viruses need to show symptoms when there is active growth. So, and it's normal with other flower bulbs. So, for example, tulips can look absolutely normal one year, and the next year they look nothing like themselves. And it's because they grow like this. So they're not like annuals. You plant them in spring and they grow till they are frozen down. Okay, it's also very common that a plant is infected with multiple viruses. We call it complex infection. And trumpets, Aurelians, and some Asiatics has a very good resistance. And TA hybrids, which are actually TA, not TA and longiflorum hybrids, are very promising. Because in my experience, longiflorums and orientals are very susceptible for virus. And I also see that tetraploids have an improved resistance because their leaves are much thicker, and their skin is also very thicker. That's the epidermis. Okay, so longiflorums, orientals, and OTs, and some species are more susceptible to flower breaking, especially Robina and Palazzo, which I demonstrated in my first slide. And under garden conditions, with minimal spraying, sometimes it's very hard to keep your plants free of viruses. What I do is either you accept that you will have viruses in your lilies, and there's nothing to it, or you exchange, so you kill the infected plants and replace them, and sometimes you have to replace a cultivar every year because it's so susceptible. Or what I usually do is just, it's okay. It's okay, I don't care about it anymore. It's good for me because I like sick plants as well as healthy plants. So it's good for me. I worked with a place where we collected directly only sick plants. It's a pathological garden, and people call us sick because we collect sick plants. And it's also very good because I have controls in my garden. So I know that this lily is infected with this virus, and if I need to have a reference, I just go out, pick the leaves, and do the comparison myself. We also want to research more on these viruses because some viruses can enhance symptoms, others, when they're present in the same plant, they suppress each other's symptoms. So we have a long-term commitment to these viruses, but we have enough on our plates right now. So I'm just going to show you a couple of symptoms. This is cucumber mosaic virus, and it's probably in your garden, in your lilies. You just maybe not noticed it because it has these typical oak leaf pattern on the leaves. And it was OT orania, and it's an orange hybrid, and you don't see the symptoms on the flowers. You just see the symptoms on the leaves. And cucumber mosaic virus is a very important virus if you have vegetables. It's on cucumbers all the time. It has more than 10,000, more than 1,000 host species, and it can be spread by seeds of chickweed, we estimate that around 10% of all chickweed seeds are infected with this virus, and chickweed doesn't show any symptoms. So you should get rid of chickweeds as soon as possible. And it also can be transmitted through rhizoctonia, and I think I'm going to talk about it. It causes damping off in the seedlings. And this is Laverne Freeman, and after flowering, I cut the stem, and you can see that these oak leaf pattern starts to become brown. These cells are dead. The professional term is necrotized, so it's dead. And this is also a common symptom. And this is first year, and second year the symptoms are totally different. They're much milder because the virus adapts to the host. So if there is a virus, it doesn't want to kill the host. It wants to propagate more. So we have a saying, if a virus doesn't show symptom in that plant, it has been with that host for very long time because it adapted to its physiology. And this is lily mother virus in Robina. And you can see that this is a perfectly good leaf, and the new leaf is showing these circular, light green, yellow symptoms, mosaic and flecks. This is later in the same plant. It has a stem, so it's a more mature plant. And you can see in spring these yellow mosaic and necrotization on the leaves, edges. I keep Robina just because it gets virus all the time. It's fun for me, you know. And this is Magnifique. It's a longiflorum oriental hybrid. I suppose it's crossed longiflorum with rubellum. And you can see that this is a healthy plant. It looks nice, not the best, but it looks nice. And this is a sick one. And look at the buds, they are like a little banana shaped, so they bend. And it is very, very dwarf. So these are the same sized bulbs. This one is sick, this one's not. And lily mother virus can infect tulips. You don't see, you just see the color breaking like tulip breaking virus. And in some cultivars, especially red vines like in king's blood, it's a red cultivar, I also see these dwarfing symptoms. So, yes, Robina. And these are the flower symptoms. It's not the best flower, it's past its prime, but you can see that these lighter parts in the flower, the color breaking, what we say, and my mother likes it, so, and I like it too. And this is the back side. So if you have a lily and it's in bud, you can check the outer tepals. You can see this irregular coloring, and in the outside of the inner tepals, you see these circular virus symptoms. This is Algarve and LA hybrid, and in the first year you can see that some of the tepals have these color breakings, and in the second year it just gets worse. Yeah, and I miss this cultivar because it shows these symptoms very nicely. So it's very good. I was teaching at a university, so I was looking for these demonstrative examples of diseases, and I took this picture in 2010 in a professional nursery, and they grow stargazer as a potted plant. And like, normally a normal person wouldn't buy this plant. I would buy it because it's a virus, but so it can cause serious problems. And you can see that these leaves are nothing like an oriental lily leaf. So you can see that there's probably something really wrong with this plant. Okay, and this is just, we made a test, ELISA test for cucumber mosaic and woolly mottle, and this is the same palazzo, and you can see that the symptoms change. This much more subtle mosaic, and it looks lighter than normal. This is a picture which from close-up, and this is lily symptomless virus, and I am sure you have this in your garden. It's called symptomless because it's very hard to find the symptoms. Usually the Dutch looking for symptoms before flowering, and both of these pictures are taken after flowering on Orania, and you can see that very light green striping on the veins and at the edge of the leaf, and this is also very typical, that very faint soft mosaic linear pattern on the leaves. And I talked a lot with Judith and others, and she also said that lily symptomless virus makes the pedicels shorter. So maybe that plant doesn't need more fertilizer, maybe it's just infected with lily symptomless. And this is also Orania, the back of the outer tepal. You can see these soft markings. It should have a solid color, but you can see these small little flecks on the flowers, which is fine in your garden. If you're not a virologist, you probably won't notice these subtle symptoms. I just show you, so if you're interested, you know. And this is a martagon, and when I saw this picture, I said, well, it looks very much like nutrient deficiency, but it's not. It's from the Ohio Department of Agriculture, so they're not what they're talking about, so I trust them that this is lily symptomless virus. And interestingly, I had one cloud shide which looked like this, and the other one were perfectly okay, and they were growing in the same spot. So, as I said, future research is coming for me. This is Plantago asiatica mosaic virus. A couple of years ago, a lot of lily growers had these issues, these small brown spots on the leaves, and the markings on the underside of the leaves are more pronounced near the veins, and this virus can spread with water. So it's a Potex virus, and now, fortunately, the Dutch get rid of it after all European countries found them in their lilies, and they emailed them that, hey, shouldn't you check your lilies for this virus, because we got it from you and it looks bad. And then they said, well, yeah, okay. So they cleaned a couple of cultivars. That's why you couldn't buy for a couple of years Concadior and Manissa, because they were trying to get rid of the virus. And after they got rid of the virus in the tissue culture, they need 3 or 4 years to have enough stock to sell again wholesale. And this is a virus symptom. We don't know what it is yet. Probably lily symptomless. I haven't made the test yet. It's my plant, so that's why it's good I grow lilies, because I have symptoms at home. So you can see that this is under the soil, and the shoot coming up has these very light white, pinkish white striations. And then when it gets over the soil, it's really not that, so you can easily miss these symptoms. It's the same bulb. And then it grows like this soft green, light greenish, yellowish veins. And this is probably lily symptomless virus, because the symptoms are more expressed. And these are also virus symptoms. But I keep them because I like lilies, and we can do research later on. So fungi are another important group of diseases, and they have spores. And they have usually whitish filaments in the soil. This is called hypha, and the plural it is hyphae, which makes up the body of the organism called mycelium. The plural is mycelia. We usually don't see this. When you think of a fungi, you go into the woods and you see the mushrooms. These are also fungi, but it's like 0.1% of the whole body of the organism. And these propagate by spores, and there are several spore types. I had to learn them, and I did forget them after I passed the exam. So it was useful. The transmission is very important because they can be seed transmitted. And I worked as a professional in the government office, and we usually tested grains for fusarium because the seeds of these, like wheat and corn, can be infected, the seed itself. So the seed can be infected on the on the surface, under the seed coat, in the endosperm, or through the cotyledons and in the embryo, or through the style, or through the hilum. And the hilum is the eye of a bean. So it's not really marked in lilies. You don't see that normally in a seed. You need to have a microscope. But some fungus can be transmitted through seeds. Vegetatively, which is more important for us because lilies have bulbs and rhizomes. So that's important. And with water. And with splashing water, usually the water molds are transmitted. With wind, most of the fungi who bear spores are transmitted by winds and air. And soil, we call it sticking soil because it sticks to your hand, to your shoes, to your garden equipment. And most of the water molds are transmitted by this and fusarium. You can also consider containerized plants, plugs, liners, and use pots as soil because they can also have these sticking soil on them or sticking substrate. And fungi can survive on that plant material or in soil for a couple of years. But for example, fusarium, different fusarium species can be last in the laboratory for 30 years. We just have it dried in Petri dish and we can resurrect the fusarium. So I say if you have a fusarium in your soil, you cannot get rid of it because it goes as deep down as the roots of the plant, and it can have these spores which are very resistant to all kinds of chemicals, heat treatment, and that's why I think that fungi which eats other fungi it could be a good way to get rid of these, or at least kill them off as much as it doesn't bother you anymore. So Botrytis elliptica, fire gray mold, is a very important disease of lilies. Other Botrytis species can infect lilies too. And the most important host is lily, and it can be spread by wind. There can be sclerotia forming on plant debris. So if you have you finish with your lily season, you have the dried stems, cut the stems down, collect the leaves and burn them. That's the most important. And you don't have to memorize this. There are a lot of things you can recognize the symptoms. I will show you the pictures because a picture is worth 1,000 words. And the sclerotia can survive for 1 to 2 years in the soil. And orientals, trumpets, oriolans are less susceptible than Asiatics, which I can prove in my garden. And Lilium longonganza and its hybrids are very tolerant, while Davidi and its hybrids are more susceptible. And plants in a juvenile stage, which hasn't had a stem yet. So if you have Candidum in your garden, it has a rosette in the autumn, and that's a juvenile stage. That's why you cannot really keep Candidums in a very moist, foggy, rainy place because the leaves get infected all the time, and after a while the bulb gets exhausted and dies. And these young plants, seedlings, are very susceptible. So I raised a couple of trumpets and oriolans from seed, and I was like, oh yeah, they are very tolerant of botrytis. Yes, when they have a stem, but in seedling stage they are susceptible. Okay, and tetraploids appear to be more tolerant because of their thicker epidermis. And these are the hybrids and species I learned from these articles that are tolerant, and these are the sensitive ones like Candidum davidi, Lancifolium, Shanti, Connecticut king, I don't know if everybody has that anymore. Whitehaven. So they say Whitehaven is a susceptible one. This year I didn't have much problem with Whitehaven, but I had an Asiatic seedling which was full of spots like a leopard. So do not plant plants too close. Apply good weed control, clean up plant debris and burn them or cover them with at least 1 foot of soil to facilitate natural decomposition, and you can spray them. And I'm very sure that Bordeaux mixture or any kind of copper fungicide can be used at home, because we have Bordeaux mixture since the 1800s, and it's still effective and it works very well against botrytis. And if you have a grape grower friend, they usually use Bordeaux mixture or copper or Moncasab in their fields. Switch, Signum, Chorus, Taldor, Folicor, Luna, Amistar, and Flinmox, Prosaro are also very good. Some of them, for example, Prosaro, are not anymore authorized in Hungary for ornamental plants. It's authorized in wheat. So we grow wheat, so we can buy this chemical, so I can spray my plants with it. No, we grow wheat because we feed the pig. So these are the sclerotia, and these are very small. So these are 1 or 2 millimeter big, and normally you don't see the sporulation. So it is best to collect the stems in the autumn and just burn them. If you don't like it, just burn it. And these are the botrytis symptoms. And I think this cultivar was LA hybrid golden stone. And you can see these small elliptical spots, and it's brown, and the middle is gray, because where the gray is, the spores are. And I didn't spray, because why? I didn't have time. You can see all the weeds in the background. And then it gets worse. And if you spray them, you stop the growth of the disease, but the spots remain till autumn. So you have to check if the new growth is infected. And this is an OT hybrid, I think, and it was from the University of Maine. And because their climate is much more moist, you can have these devastations in your buds and flowers. So I wouldn't enter this stem in the competition. What I would do is, I would cut down the buds. If I see a green bud with these brown spots, I cut it off. Because the plant will not spend energy to raise the bud and open the flower. This energy can go down in the bulb, and you can have a bigger, better stem next year. Okay, Fusarium and Eleonectria, and I have to check my notes because, yes, so it's called black rot of lily or charcoal rot, or basil rot, or bulb rot, and you can see that this lily may survive because this is the stem under the soil. But this one, it has the roots rot. If the basal plate rots, it's not going to live. And if you have maybe partially rotted bulb, you can save it by picking out the good scales and raise them from scales. What I would do is, just to be on the safe side, I would drench them in a systemic fungicide like Folicor or Prosaro, because they are very effective against Fusarium species. And these Fusarium species can occur in all types of soil, and yes. So this is a problem, and we found Fusarium species which can infect lilies. We're working on it to produce a paper, and just a few months ago, Chinese scientists found Fusarium species which infect wheat, and they had serious losses in their lilium field. So they made a paper about it, and now we know. that not only one Fusarium species can cause problems in lilies, but more than one. This is important because if you can manage to grow your lilies from a distance from maybe cornfields or wheat fields, it's just safer for you. But you cannot pick and choose what your neighbor is going to grow. This is penicillium, and I want to show you this because if the seller packs the bulbs in wood shavings, usually then you have these symptoms, and you can see the wood particles sticking to this brown spot, and you can see these blue molds. If you know Roquefort cheese or blue Stilton, same genera, different fungi. Don't eat this one, it's not going to be good for you. I received these, and when I was much younger and didn't know anything about pests and diseases, I was really pissed about it. But you can just pick out these scales. You have to throw the bad scales out, and you plant the bulb, and if the basal plate is intact, the plant will grow and be fine. This disease only appears when you dig out the bulb and store them dry. So if you store them correctly in moist peat or moist core, you don't see this. The best thing is, of course, you dig the bulb from your friend's garden, with permission, of course, and immediately plant it in your garden. That's the best. Of course, not everyone can do that. But look for bulbs which are packed in moist peat. If the peat dries out and it gets moistened again, you will have these symptoms in your bulbs. It looks bad, but it's not as bad as it looks. And of course, you can drench the cleaned up bulb in a fungicide. It doesn't make harm, but don't drench it more than 15 or 20 minutes, and then you can plant it. Okay, Phytophthora, and I had issues with this pathogen this year. There were a couple of days this year in my life, and I was like, I am a professional horticulturist, I am a professional plant doctor, and I have a PhD, and I couldn't stop this year. So I have so little hair because I was pulling out most of it, and I was just crying and feeling very, very bad because I like lilies, and I do like diseases in lilies, but I better like diseases in lilies in other people's garden. I'm much happier. So there's no envy if you see your friends' lilies are dying. But this is Phytophthora, and I like this cultivar. It has good flowers, and I think I got the bulbs already infected with this disease. And I can show you the devastation. So I pulled out this stem, the bulb already rotted. This was a week before I left Hungary, so about 2 weeks ago now. And here you can see the bulb scales turned brown, and they smelled a little bit, so it doesn't have that fresh lily bulb smell what we all used to and like. It smelled like something was rotting a little bit. It doesn't smell like carrion, it smelled like it's just bad. So it's like a little bit sour. And this one is, maybe it could be saved, but I wasn't really interested in saving it. I can buy this cultivar next year and take better care of it. And you can see that these old places, the basal roots are missing, or just a few of them, and these yellow tips, yellowish brownish tips, these are typical of Phytophthora. And you have to expect there will be more problems with Phytophthora, because I just got an email a couple of days ago, and the Dutch potato growers were complaining that they sprayed 6 different chemicals last year for seed potatoes, and nothing seems to work. And they are usually looking for the Phytophthora, which is known to infect potatoes infestans, but there are a ton of other Phytophthora species, and I think that the Phytophthora which could not be stopped in seed potatoes are also infecting lilies because they have these crop rotations when they plant, like for example, potatoes, because it's a dicotyledon, and then they plant lilies, and well, these pathogens do not read scientific articles. They don't know how they should behave. So they're just like, I'm hungry, I need to eat something. And there's a fresh root, let's try it. And I think it tastes good for them. And so I was really, really sad about this, but you know, more work to be done. Rhizoctonia solani, damping off Rhizoctonia disease, and it has more than 1,000 hosts, and it's very common in seedlings and in peppers, in adult pepper plants. So if you have an adult pepper plant and you see the stem near the soil have these brownish or grayish infusions, and the pepper plant just drops their leaves, turn light green and dies, it's usually about this pathogen. This pathogen usually attacks young seedlings, but in the case of pepper, it attacks other plants as well. So you can transmit it with propagating material, soil, soil-covered tools, splashing water, washing water, and they have airborne spores in June. So leaves are darker grayish, brown elongated spots and stripes can also develop on the underground parts of the stem. It's very much like Fusarium. What is very interesting is it can severely attack seedlings and young plants from tissue culture and from scale propagation. So if you have scales and you use the outer scales, which are more conductive to make scale bubblets, you plant them, and you wait, and you don't see scale bubblets regenerating. It's usually because of this pathogen. And it is best if you can use brand new soil for scales or tissue culture plants, whatever you can get your hands on. And this plant is present in all natural soils. So everybody has it. And Rhizoctonia disease mainly occurs in scald cultivation and small planting stock, and the plants die prematurely. And in addition to bulbous plants, the fungus also affects many other crops. It preferably infects younger plants, and the sexual stage sporulates, usually in early summer after rain under warm and moist conditions. So when you have a diseased plant and you see the soil in the morning after a rain or foggy morning, you see this soft white covering near the base, it's that one. Okay, so use fresh or steamed media, soil, and new trays and pots. I cannot stress this enough because I was reusing my pots and soil, and one year I had 0 seedlings raised because they just died in, they threw the cotyledon stage, and then before the first or second leaf emerges, they died. So a lot of work for nothing. Use a free draining mix, do not oversaturate the substrate with water. Scales can be dipped in a systemic fungicide before or after scaling. The Mancozeb is very good. You can also use copper with it because it enhances the efficiency of the Mancozeb, but it can burn the roots and the scales, so be careful. And these are all very good. Previcor, Folicor, Amistar, Luna, Prosaro, very good. But you should be aware of the dosing.
Question.
Yes?
Can you reuse your pots if you put them through a chlorine disinfection?
Yes.
Okay.
So I wanted to say that, and thank you for asking it. So usually what we did in a nursery and what we saw other propagating material nursery do is that they clean the pot or clean the tray, and then they put a bleach solution, so 1 part bleach to 3 or 4 part of water, good water, so not like ditch water or, so you have to have water for human consumption, clean water, and you put it and you soak it for at least half an hour. You can leave it overnight. It doesn't make harm because usually these pots and trays are made of polypropylene, which are pretty resistant to these chemicals. And then you have to wash it. So at least one clean water rides. Okay? These were my seedlings. I'm really not proud of them. You can see the empty seed shells and the dead cotyledons. But I took the picture so I can show you. Not to do what I do. Do what I say, not what I do. Okay, so any more questions? Yes?
Can you clean pots, clay pots with vinegar?
No, and I wouldn't use clay pots for seedlings. You can use clay pots for adult plants.
Okay.
If you have a clay pot, you may want to, I don't know how heat resistant is it, or is it winter resistant clay? Because if you can leave the clay pot outside in the winter, it's pretty heat resistant. So you can put boiling water in it, be very careful, fill it up, and if the pot breaks, it wasn't heat resistant. So I'm sorry, you can complain to me by email, but I won't respond. It's your own risk, I'm sorry, darling. Yes, more questions? Yes, Barbara.
I wash my plastic pots in the dishwasher. You know,
How is your dishwasher uses lime? Because some dishwashers you can use lime in it, so like sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide, and if it's if it's not rusting or you see it as normal as you would, you can try. I tried my washing machine and it's not acid resistant. I learned it the hard way because you can see these shiny metal parts. You try it once, and if it's not shiny anymore, it wasn't acid or alkaline resistant.
I've been doing it for a while. I don't have any problems.
Okay.
Cascade dishwashing.
Okay. Just be very careful because I think it's called caustic soda,
Yes.
and what you use for soap making,
Yeah.
lye. That's good, but you have to be really careful because it will burn your skin and everything on.
Yeah, but I'm not in the dishwasher.
Yeah, I expected that because you pretty much need a industrial size dishwasher. When you put things in and out, be very careful because it works because our laboratory dishwasher uses this sodium hydroxide, and we put a teaspoon of sodium hydroxide, and it can also heat the water to boiling point. So when we used for glassware, it was great because it's sterilized, it stripped everything. And if you have a friend in high places, and they have these laboratory dishwashers, you can clean a deep fryer. You have these deep fryer burns on the side, which are sticky and ugly and disgusting, and you put it in for 2 cycles and it comes clean as new. I've tried it, don't tell it to my former bosses. And you can also make wonderful cakes in heat sterilizers. You just to be very careful not to put the heat so up, because I learned it from this university assistant, and she told me that when everybody leaves the faculty building, she stays and she makes her pies and confectionery in these electric ovens, because we didn't have these electric ovens back in Hungary which can circulate the air. Now we have it at home, so if you make a huge cake or pie, you can still ask a friend in a lab.
So is your next book going to be household hints?
No, these household hints are for VIP person only, and you're one of them. The other ones delete their memories from the last few minutes. Patrick had a question, I believe.
Yeah,
Yes?
question on virus transmission.
Yes.
So, number one, seeds. Everybody is, for the longest time I read, virus cannot be transmitted through seeds.
For the most part, yes, you are right. But we know it from plum pox virus, which my professor researched for 30 years, and they made transmission tests with pollen and seed. And if you have 10,000 lily plants, lily seeds from the same cultivar, you can try and check. 10,000 is the minimum. We don't test that because I don't have the time and patience for that. And we usually say that if you raise lilies from seed, it's safe from viruses. What you cannot choose is the wind, because the wind can blow in these aphids. And we had this discussion with Judith, I think, from the judging sessions, Zoom sessions. And I have a hunch that viruses are not only transmitted by aphids, but also by thrips and other bugs, and maybe.
Flower thrill, I'm sure.
Yes, yes.
Bad culprit, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
I cannot state this with good conscience because I'm a researcher and have to do the transmission tests and prove without a doubt that this is happening. But yes, I agree with Judith 100% because I didn't have much blood louse in my garden, and I still had a lot of virus. And also leaf hoppers, and I think I shared it with, I remember I sent an email to Judith because we have a different virus in meadow saffron in Hungary, and I collected sting bugs, and they were able to transmit the virus. And this virus is in the same genera as lily mottle virus. We haven't published this result, so don't tell it to anyone. You heard it here first and last, and but yes. So we are also. I'm personally interested in this, and
So
yeah.
The second question was, I think you already mentioned it, was pollen. Because I've heard some people, they won't use pollen
Yes.
from virus lilies.
I would use pollen because these grains are have a thick wall, and some viruses can be transmitted through pollen, but you're not standing all day and night there with your lily and not counting if there are any moths or pollinators. So I have to speed up because Barbara was kind enough to show me a sign to speed up, which is fine. That's her job. It's my job to give you as much information as I can. So slugs and snails, everybody has them. If you dig in the soil and you see these pearls, sometimes they are transparent, sometimes they are opaque or white. These are slug eggs, and usually slugs have 1 or 2 generations in temperate regions, and if you go south, they can have as much as 5 or 6 generations a year. And these are slug eggs. They're squishy, they're sticky, and if you're a gourmet, if you buy white, what's that expensive fish egg you spread on toast? Yes, white caviar is made from snail eggs, salted snail eggs, so bon appetit. And we are familiar with slugs, so I don't like to touch them because they're cold and slimy. Yeah. And I have a grower friend. He's having anger breaks because of if he touches a snail, you cannot talk to him that day because he's going to cause serious problems in your health. Yeah. So I understand. I hate them. I despise them. And you can use Sluggo. Sluggo is available in the US. And you can buy it. In Europe, we buy Ferromol, Schneckenkorn, and it's also it's the same ingredient. It's a iron phosphate, and it's totally safe. And it is allowed in Europe in organic cultivation. If you have strawberries, you can slay the slugs first on the strawberries, and then on your lilies. And there are also hyperparasitic nematodes which can kill the slugs and snails, but they are picky. So they might not eat yours, but sluggo is good. So try to use it. So this is Asian marmorated stink bug, and it will suck the buds, flowers, and seed pods of your lilies. And if they suck the seed pod, the seeds inside in that area are not going to be viable. So what I suggest is you cover your seed pods with organza bags. You can buy them by the hundreds or thousands. The small ones, they're fine. I use them. I like them. Because this is a big animal, it's very hard to kill it with chemicals. So it's best that you cover your seed pods with an organza bag. And it also affects all kinds of fruits, but I don't want to go into detail. Aphids, yeah, this was the second thing I said, well, I'm not worthy of my titles. I sprayed 7 times, weekly intervals, with aphids, and because we had a warm March and April, the aphids were growing in numbers in other plants, and we had a cold spell, and then we had a warm again, and we have these flying animals, and you can see that this is my sister's lily in her garden. She never sprays. This is my lily in my garden, Casablanca. They like Casablanca very much. If you have Casablanca and you think you have aphids, check the underside of the leaves. And this is Casablanca, and before I left, I checked the Casablanca. It looked the same. And I sprayed it 7 times because we had so many aphids this year. So I expect that we're going to have more virus next year. Good for me. Chafer grubs, white grubs, and these are, we have, where I live in Kecskemét, we have 6 different chafer grubs in the soil. A couple of them grow in 1-year cycles, and then up to 4 or 5 years. And when you have these will eat everything in the soil, including lily bulbs, stems. This was a graft, plum graft, and you can see that they eat the woody part, and this graft was already dead. So before you plant a lot of lilies, maybe you want to dig a 3 foot by 3 foot square, 1 foot deep, and if you find one, I wouldn't advise you to plant lily bulbs there because they find it and they will eat it. Oh, and anything, carrots, cabbage, flower bulbs, everything. Okay, this is a moth. I think you have something similar called cotton bollworm in the US, and it lays eggs near the buds, flowers, and seed pods. And why I was advertising organza bags, I don't get a cut from the proceeds, so because it keeps these out. These animals fly and they place their eggs one by one under the first leaf near the next bud, flower, or seed pod. And when you go, for example, in peas, you go and the animal flies up and you only see that brownish orange and white. And and you can be sure that this is that animal. It flies up and then it goes down and hides. And this is a moth. Usually moths go in the night, but he doesn't care. He goes day and night. And this is a migrating species in Hungary. We didn't have it before 1994. It came from the south, and now it overwinters in Hungary, and it can have up to 4 generations. So from May till October, I'm expecting these animals in my garden. And for lilies, I do not spray against, because I have the organza bags. But for other crops like tomatoes, we have to spray. Okay, and if you see a pepper, it's inside. This is the caterpillar, and we have a lot of paprika in Hungary. That's what we are famous for. And when we pick the paprika, we shake them. If you hear something inside, there's one of these, because they grow in. They leave the egg here, and the little caterpillar chews in, and the plant will heal, and it will eat the seeds inside. And one time, my mother was cutting up tomatoes, and she was screaming because she found one in a tomato. So, not a good experience. So I use these organza bags, and I just put them on the seed pod and pull the strings, yes, and it's fine. Okay, sorry, I'm back. So you can take a photograph. Yes, organza bags, that's what it's called in Europe. It's a very thick net, and it's because it's a plastic, it allows any chemical sprays or rain through, and it's very light, airy, so it won't suffocate, and you can reuse it. Sciuridae, these are animals. These are shore flies and fungus gnats, and if you use I have to check my notes, I'm sorry. I'm looking for a word. And yes. So if you use any peat-based soil, it's in your soil. They can survive as pupae or eggs. And if you water it, they will come and they make these clouds near ditches and wet pots. And you have to use so you have to keep your pots a little on the drier side, because that's the only way, I'm sorry. They also eat algae, and they can transmit Fusarium, Rhizoctonia, and Phytophthora, and other soil-borne diseases. They usually eat seedlings, so seedlings and scales, scale bulblets. And I think this is the last one. This is Rhizoglyphus, and I have to check the English name. It's I think it's bulbmites, and yes, bulbmites. So I had stored bulbs on my desk, and these are all bulbmites. I didn't see them. It's very common. All tulips and daffodils and gladioli, which are imported from the Netherlands, especially the ones which are sold with caps, color pictures. Those are the lowest quality. They are infected, and you should not cover your fields with straw, because also the straw mites can go inside and eat the bulbs. And this is very important on scalings and tissue culture plants, because they burrow inside the scale bulblets, and they can eat the meristem, and it will not grow. So it may not regenerate scale bulblets either. And what I suggest is you use flower sulfur. It's very cheap, and I think you can buy it here, because you can buy it in Hungary in 50-pound bags, and it doesn't cost much. Before you initiate your scales, you just put the scales in the flour of sulfur, cover them well, shake the rest off, and then you put them in your media to generate scales, because it's very effective against them. And of course, you have to be careful not to store them next to onions, potatoes, and other flower bulbs, because they can go and eat your plants. So I hope not. Oh yeah, this one. This is the last one. This is the first thing I saw this year. This is a bug, a sting bug, Trigomatus bicolor, and this is night rider. And we know that night rider can go pretty good. And it started sucking out the life of the shoots and leaves, and it stayed 4 inches tall. And this was a 16, 18 size bulb, so it was almost as big as my fist. And this is new. I never seen it before in my life, so we have to expect the unexpected and be prepared to fight these things. And I thank you for your attention. Hopefully, yes. Yes. Any questions maybe? Are we in time? Next presenter? Are we in time? Okay.
Are they using any bacteria attacking funguses?
Yes.
Plants, so it's competitive exclusion?
Yes, yes. We are currently testing a bacteria. It's a strain of Bacillus amylopathians, formerly known subtilis. And we use, I trial it now. It has authorization in the Netherlands, but I haven't heard back from growers if they're effective or not. I'm trialing it now.
I know in the aquarium industry, we were